Even for seasoned investigators, the way Samantha Heller died is almost too difficult to comprehend.
Been doing this for 26 years, seen a lot. It would be one of the worst deaths imaginable because she suffered a traumatic injury to her body. She would have known the impact was coming, and to have her murder, smothering somebody, you don't die right away from that. And so it would be absolutely helpless end of her life.
And those were the horrific details Samantha Heller's family avoided at trial when Benjamin Klinger pleaded guilty to third-degree murder. But then, roughly 4 years into his 28 to 56-year sentence, Klinger suddenly files an appeal to have his plea overturned.
Ben trying to step up and want to take this plea deal off the table, I'm sure is infuriating.
It really makes me mad. This is my baby. And he took her and he ripped her life apart. He had no right.
So what changed? Why does Samantha's confessed killer now say he isn't guilty of deliberately taking her life? And what was to be his first time speaking publicly about the case, Benjamin Klinger was about to tell us himself.
Thank you for taking my call.
Right away from State Correctional Institution in Albion, Pennsylvania, Ben tells our producers there's one thing he wants to make perfectly clear.
I fully take responsibility for the passing of Samantha Heller.
But he says it wasn't murder, third degree or otherwise.
I believe I'm at fault for not driving in a safe manner.
Do you wish you had gone to trial then?
Yes, so much. If I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have done it. I would have went to trial so I could tell my story.
One, he says, is much different than the version most people have heard.
Those stories of abuse, that's exactly what they were. They were stories. They weren't, as you can see in the pictures, she was not afraid of me. She wasn't scared of the relationship. She loved attention. She loved getting sympathy from others. And she knew the best way to get attention and to get sympathy was tell stories.
But prosecutors say what Ben is calling stories were all true, including one in which Samantha called her aunt from inside Ben's car. Ben screaming, quote, "If you don't get off the phone with your expletive relatives right now, I'm going to run this car right off the road."
I never said that. No, that's an absolute falsehood. I would never want to take her away from her family. I would have never hurt her. No, that claim is absolutely false.
But ultimately, that is what happened. Ben was behind the wheel during the crash that ended Samantha's life. So what does he have to say about that tragic night?
I can't tell you specifically because I don't remember the action or hours and hours leading up to it.
A convenient excuse.
I had such a severe concussion. The doctor at the hospital told my family that, that they wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if I never remember anything. Because the severity of the concussion, that I don't remember hours before and days after.
How or why Samantha even ended up in his car? All a blank. And he's not sure how that handwritten list of demands ended up in his car either.
I know what the police report said. It looks as if that note was us discussing points for our relationship.
Including one very big point, a request for child support.
That note as part of what the prosecutor calls a crescendo of motives, a series of things that would have angered Ben Klinger and made him furious enough to do what he did.
Well, it's just not true. As far as child support, I think child support would never have been a problem with me. I'm really family-oriented man.
Yeah.
I would love to have it, and I would have all the way been okay with having support.
But if that's so true, how does Ben explain having another girlfriend at the time? And what was he overheard saying to her?
I'll read the quote. At the hospital, Klinger telling his girlfriend, "Now we can be together and she won't be between us anymore."
The thing to understand is that the condition that I was in, with the head trauma, the concussion, medications that I was on from just being in the car accident myself, I don't remember hardly anything of that time period. I can't verify that I even said that. I've seen the court documents, I've seen the quotes, but I That doesn't sound like my character.
And he says he's equally confused by some of the other things he's been reported saying after the crash, like that he ended up on Samantha's head after being ejected from the car.
That doesn't make sense. I don't think I was ejected, and if I said that, I don't know if somebody asked me that when I was in that fugue state, and I didn't know, and I said yes. You know, I was very confused and disoriented, and I don't remember anything from that time.
Again, an answer that seemed just a little too easy, and it brings up another question. If he can't even remember the crash, why did he plead guilty to third-degree murder?
I intended to plead guilty to causing an accident that took a young woman's life. I did not realize that third degree was there's intent and there's malice. I was guilty of causing the death of Samantha from a car accident, but not in a malicious way that is murder.
And he says his defense at the time didn't adequately explain that.
My lawyer was ineffective. He guided me toward that plea. He coerced me into that plea. That made me guilty of actual murder and not a car accident, and I can't accept that. You know, I did not kill Sam.
In fact, as part of his appeal, Klinger's new defense team points to another culprit altogether.
Yeah, you know, the guardrail pierced the car, went through the front dashboard and through the passenger area and out the door. Guardrails are not meant to operate that way. My lawyer hired an engineer to look at that guardrail, and in fact did, and was willing to testify that very likely we both would have walked away from that accident had it been a correct guardrail design.
But District Attorney Craig Stedman has a response to that.
You know, last time I checked, guardrails don't reach out and murder people. The only reason the guardrail's an issue is if you drive the car into it at 100 miles an hour head on. Guardrail murdered her? No. Benjamin Klinger murdered her. The guardrail didn't drive the car at 115 miles an hour off the road. Guardrail didn't cause 2 years of abuse. The guardrail didn't threaten to kill her. It's just really stupid. I rarely say that about other arguments that I've seen in court, but this is one of the dumbest ones. On top of that, it's really offensive. It's really insulting.
But Ben insists it was a contributing factor, that he never did anything to intentionally cause the death of Samantha. And that, believe it or not, having his conviction overturned is just as much for Samantha's family as it is for him.
You know, I think it's a tragic miscarriage of justice. It's not just that it's unfair to me. It's unfair to her family. It's unfair to her friends. It's not fair that they have to try and live with this terrible picture painted of how she passed. And it is terrible how she passed, but to try and say that it was an intentional act is not just a smear on me, but it's a smear on her legacy. At the end of the day, someone I really cared about passed away.
And that's pretty much where our conversation cut off, with Ben continuing to stand firm that, despite what he swore in court, he didn't murder Samantha Heller. At least, he doesn't remember doing it. So far, a judge has rejected Klinger's efforts to have his plea overturned. But Ben is currently appealing that ruling. And if he does get his second chance,
I'll tell you something, I'm really kind of okay with a do-over, because a do-over doesn't get him a less sentence. A do-over gets him back to square one. You have a trial and he faces life in prison. So I'll put this in the category, be careful what you wish for.
and Samantha's loved ones say Ben won't be facing the same people he did before.
By some slim chance, his appeal is granted. I will fight this, and I will sit through a trial, and I will tell every tiny little thing. And so will everybody else that has contact and knows what happened to Sammy.
He wants to try to fight us on this, we'll fight right back.
And you're all stronger now than you were 5 years ago.
That's right. He's not fighting broken people anymore. We're strong now. So bring it on.
It's almost unbelievable to think this abusive man could ever see the outside of a prison again. Now, if you know of anyone who's trapped in an abusive relationship and needs help to get out, we put up a resource guide to help you on our website. That's at crimewatchdaily.com. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.